Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Adrian Show. Today, we're playing a deck that maybe not as good as some of the other decks currently out on the market, but definitely a deck near and dear to my heart. I first started playing Constructed Magic during the Innistrad Ravnica standard, which people who played during that time probably remember it was heavily dominated by a blue-white control deck. But there was, however, also a very good red deck wins deck available at the time, whose ideal start was Rakdos Cackler Unleashed into actually Burning Tree Emissary into Lightning Mauler, and then you could attack for 6 on turn 2, follow up on turn 3 with Boros Reckoner, and then turn 4 you'd play Hell Rider. It was a pretty powerful deck, obviously overshadowed by the blue-white deck at the time, but it really is what got me started in Constructed Magic. Eventually I got into Modern, and then I got into Pauper, and so I really wanted to play that deck today just to showcase it, because it is a deck that I sort of quote-unquote grew up playing, as it were. And I'm of the opinion that the red deck wins deck needs a plethora of 1-drops, and we have those in abundance here. We have 4 copies of Foundry Street Denizen. I was debating with Mike the other day about whether or not this was an inclusion. I think it's worth it. We'll see how it goes. And then we have 4 copies of Goblin Cohort, just 2/2 for R, along with Mog Conscripts. They're essentially the same card. And then 4 copies Jackal Familiar. So we have 12 1-drops. Goblin Bushwhacker is technically a 1-drop, but really it's RR because you want to get its kicker on the table. And of course, 4 copies of Bolt, and I guess Mutagenic Growth technically count. But the Bolt is here to help manage the opponent's board and go face if necessary, and the Mutagenic Growth is to help us punch through additional damage. We also have 4 copies of Mudbrawler Cohort, which is a 2/2 with haste, great with Burning Tree Emissary, and its cousin Valley Dasher, also a 2/2 for 2 with haste. This one's a little bit more conditional, but of course we'll always have that red creatures in our deck. I mean, hopefully. I think we'd be pretty far behind if we had played this on a turn without an additional red creature. And then, Valley Dasher has to attack. Really, what makes this deck better, in my opinion, is Burning Tree Emissary, which lets you play more of these 2-drops, and then the addition of Goblin Heel Cutter, which is a little bit older at this point, but being able to take away a blocker every turn is so valuable. And then we have 2 copies of Fire Blast to end games. 17 Mountains, we're a low mana deck. So the deck is pretty simplistic, at least on the surface, and in Pauper, there's not a lot of ways that you can punish very aggressive go-wide strategies. We have Evankar's Justice and Electrickery, sure, but this deck isn't soft to Electrickery. Really, we're trying to dodge Evankar's. And in the board, we have 2 copies of our own Electrickery for those sorts of matchups where we need it, 3 copies of Flame Slash to help punch through additional damage, 3 copies of Gorilla Shaman for affinity, 3 copies Pyroblast for the blue decks, 2 copies of Flaring Pain because Prismatic Strands and Moment's Peace are pretty popular at the moment, and then 2 copies of Smash to Smithereens to help deal with other problematic artifacts. And I find myself bringing these in against stuff like Tron as well, because if you can blow up a Prophetic Prism, it's pretty strong. And then it's also incidentally good against Golgotha Boros, and sometimes, and good against Affinity. So that's our deck for today. Let's get into it. All right, and here we are in Match 1, Game 1. I think 2 lands and a 1-drop is pretty good. We also have Bolt. I would have liked additional creatures in this hand, but I don't think this is a mulligan. We're on the draw, so that's a little unfortunate, but we'll hopefully get there. Basic Mountain from our opponent. Maybe we're playing a mirror match, or perhaps we're playing its Burn. In which case, yeah, we're playing its Burn, so I'm not really sure how this mirror match is going to end up working. I like to think that our deck is a little bit stronger. Drawing another Goblin Heel Cutter, not ideal. We just need to get on the board, and we need to get on the board fast. So next turn, I'll be kicking this Bushwhacker, and then we're going to try and win the game on the back of our Lightning Bolt and Fire Blast, and hopefully we'll just have more red stuff to do than our opponent. So this should be a pretty interesting match. Opponent going face. I think being on winning the die roll was pretty huge here, especially if my opponent Searing Blazes me. Wow, that's bad. Now I'm not sure. I think winning the die roll was honestly very, very strong. There's another Bushwhacker. I think we can't afford to take a turn off. We have to go ahead and kick Bushwhacker and just get in there for 2. So that's probably one of the weakest Bushwhackers I've ever cast, but I mean, there's really nothing we can do. So yeah, this is... They have another Searing Blaze. Okay, Curse the Pierced Heart, I think is pretty beatable. I think our opponent actually had kind of a slow start, so it is a little unfortunate that we and then we draw Foundry Street Denizen. So I think it's better to play the Denizen, bolt our opponent, attack for 1. And we can just bolt main phase here. There's no reason not to. And then we'll be able to kick the Bushwhacker next turn. So we'll have... okay, Thermo Alchemist I'm not afraid of. That might have been a reason to save the bolt, though. But if we draw another mount, we draw all 3 Goblin Heel Cutters in one game. That's pretty incredible. So let's kick our Bushwhacker. So actually, that was a good reason to not use the bolt. Because now he'll block one of the Bushwhackers. We still could win if we draw a land for one of our Heel Cutters, provided our opponent can't do 12 damage to us in this turn. They might be able to with Thermo Alchemist. So yeah, here comes the gravy train. I wonder if it's worth it to Fire Blast the Thermo Alchemist, but I feel like we could still win. And obviously the time to do it was right there. If they go to untap again, so let's see. Let's see if this is another bolt. Yeah, then if they have Fire Blast, it just doesn't matter. So we'll go to 6, then we'll go to 3. If they have another bolt, we're just dead. Or if they have Fire Blast, we're just dead. So I don't think I could have played that differently. Really, ripping the land for Heel Cutter is what won us the game. Yeah, there was just I don't think it was correct to try and kill the Thermo Alchemist. I think we played that as well as we could, and they just were, they were on the play and they drew more relevant cards. So I think we'll go ahead and run it back. I don't really think we need the Flame Slash. We'll use the bolt, and I think not bolting that that Thermo Alchemist may have cost us a little as well. So we'll definitely be on the play game 2. This hand is okay. We just need another land to really get going, and we have 2 1-drops plus the Mutagenic Growth and our opponent's mulliganing. I think this is fine. And we can protect from Searing Blaze, although we'll end up taking 5 damage for our trouble. So yeah, let's go ahead and lead off on Goblin Cohort. Pass the turn. Now we know to manage our opponent's Thermo Alchemist, which probably should have done earlier, but... Alright, Burning Tree Emissary is a good draw. Let's go ahead and play Mod Conscripts. That way, if we draw a land, we can go Burning Tree Emissary into Mudbrawler Cohort. If my opponent goes to Bolt Goblin Cohort, I think I'm just going to Mutagenic Growth, even though it costs me life. And in fact, I wonder if these are cuttable, but I feel like if our opponent is spinning spells on our creatures, we're in pretty good shape. Yeah, Bolt's me, sure. I guess there's also scenarios where you can Burning Tree into a 1-drop and a Mutagenic Growth. So yeah, now we really need to draw the land next turn. All right, Searing Blaze. Yeah, I don't think it's quite worth saving the Mod Conscripts. Come on, land. All right, sure. Goblin Cohort off the top. Searing Blaze is pretty good against us, unfortunately. Really need to draw a land for this Burning Tree. Opponent draws another land. Do they have another Searing Blaze? Curse the Pierced Heart. And a Bolt. A Rift Bolt, sure. Alright, come on, land. Land off the top. Yeah. Let's go ahead and run out the cohort. Next turn we'll play Valley Dasher, and we'll attack for, I think, lethal. So if my opponent has Bolt, Bolt, Fire Blast, oh man, Thunderous Wrath. Wow, that's pretty fortunate. I feel like if we lose this game, it's because my opponent got pretty lucky with that Thunderous Wrath, and then, okay, Keldon Marauders, that's fine. If they have Fire Blast, though, we're just dead. All right, this is the turn. A land would be ideal. Then we get our own Fire Blast instead, which is also just fine. Awesome. So let's go ahead and just, I mean, maybe in that case, Flame Slash is a little better because it doesn't cost us life. In that game, it might have mattered if we hadn't drawn the Fire Blast, but I think we're okay. So opponent does get to be on the draw for game 3, but this hand's perfect. We have 1-drop into Burning Tree, Goblin Cohort. So I'm hoping that we can overwhelm our opponent with this hand, despite it being kind of a slow start. And then if we draw another land, we can start running out the Heel Cutter every turn. So I do like this hand. Is this a Suspended Rift Bolt? Nope, it's just a Lava Spike. Opponent also want this hand would obviously be much better on the play. There's a Bushwhacker, which will help us set up fairly well. So we're going to go Burning Tree, Mod Conscripts. The turn after we can Bushwhack if nothing else. And I think this hand might be fast enough to win. Yeah, Forgotten Cave. I'm actually not a fan of Forgotten Cave and Burn. I think I've said that, more than once. Fire Blast is fairly good draw. Yeah, next turn we have the Bushwhacker plus the Fire Blast. So that'll be 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we'll be 2 points short. No, including the Bushwhacker, that's enough. If my opponent doesn't Searing Blaze me here, which doesn't look like they will. Okay, Curse of the Pierced Heart is probably the absolute best thing that could have happened. We draw a land. I think it's worth playing it, but I think we already have our win. All right, and we get there. Sweet. I'll see everyone for the next match.